Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Shortcut Podcast, a show about the long and short of the filmmaking process. Joining me on this episode is Mitch Yapko, a prolific filmmaker with more than 30 short films under his belt. Mitch has been crafting stories from all genres for more than a decade, from thriller to comedy to romance. But the film he screened with us at the San Jose International Short Film Festival hit a little closer to home. Based on a true story, Watching Walter is a period piece examining loss, trauma, and forgiveness as seen through the lens of a Polish watchmaker interned by the Nazis as a young boy in World War II and again in his twilight years as a craftsman in New York. Mitch talks about the process, the story behind the story, and his inspirations in selecting this project, as well as providing a glimpse at what's on the horizon for this relentless filmmaker. And with that, please enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us again. I'm your host, Christopher Denise, and with me today is Mitch Yapko, director of Watching Walter.
Hi. Pleasure to be here.
Great to have you on. So tell us just a little bit about yourself and your film.
Sure. My name is Mitch Yapko, as you just told the fans. I'm a director, producer, writer. I have been doing this for a long time. I love making narrative content. I love telling stories. I've done a number of short films, as I've mentioned previously.
I believe.
Yeah.
In the
30 something. Yeah. But it's sort of like genre agnostic. Like I just love telling sort of stories about real people in surreal situations. Whether it's, an homage to love in the French New Wave or a horror comedy or a psychological, thriller or a piece about a Holocaust survivor. It's all just how people cope with unexpected things and how like the human spirit, survives and thrives.
Yeah. So just so you don't have to actually be this close. You can relax a little bit. These are pretty good. Yeah, there you go. So thank you for the introduction there. Your film, Watching Walter, I just finished watching it literally seconds ago.
Yes.
It was totally unexpected. I actually had not read the synopsis for it in the program, so I did not know what I was getting into there.
Nice.
But let's go straight into it. Why this film? What inspired you to make this? And this is based on a true story, as far as somewhat loosely, but relatively based on a true story. There, I guess I should say some of the events, the post events are probably somewhat loosely based, but the war part itself was probably pretty accurate, I imagine.
Yeah. Mark Dillon Brown, who's the writer, he grew up in Philadelphia, where Walter emigrated to after the war. Walter had a shop in Manayunk and on like Jewelers Row in Philadelphia, and Mark, when he was 14 years old, was taking his grandmother's watch to Walter to have repaired. So he had some touch points with Walter, growing up.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until years later, Mark's best friend Roberto struck up sort of an unlikely friendship with Walter, and Walter didn't have any kids, and so as time progressed, Walter started telling Roberto his stories, and one of the things that Walter conveyed to Roberto was, at the end of the day, he wants his story told. Yeah. Somehow, whatever that means, he wanted his story told.
Yeah.
And so Roberto wasn't a writer, but Mark is a writer. So Roberto told Mark his stories, and Mark wrote a beautiful short script, sort of, tracking a couple of these moments of Walter's life, in 1995, when he's in Philadelphia, and he has this sort of PTSD moment that takes him back to the war.
Yeah.
So yeah, he beautifully wrote this just sort of these flashes of scenes.
Yeah.
I was introduced to Mark a couple, like right before the pandemic, basically, and he showed me the screenplay, and I read it, and I fell in love with the script and the simplicity of it and the depth at the same time. And my grandfather was a refugee of the Holocaust, so he left Poland in 1936 just as Hitler was coming to power, and so there was something personal in the story too. And it's a story that it's one of countless stories of these survivors that oftentimes do not get told. And so for me, I read the script, and I immediately I did a pitch deck for the whole thing, and I pitched myself to direct the film, and here we are.
Awesome.
So yeah.
I think it's there are a few survivor stories in the festival this year, and I think we actually interviewed Alexis, who I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his last name, but the gentleman who did the one about the young boy from Ukraine,
I think.
Rumchick. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful
And
film.
It's amazing because there's such a war trauma is war trauma is war trauma. It doesn't matter which war it was, right? There's such a connection between all of those. And so another thing I really want to take a moment to point out is I think it's extremely important to document these stories, and not just in documentary style. I really appreciate that you did this as a narrative, and I'll take back my comment. It was not loosely based. Now that I understand a little more, that was actually based directly on his personal story. And I think that's a very important part of what we do as filmmakers. Thousands and thousands of years ago, we sat around campfires telling each other stories, and that was how culture was passed on. That was how our story of the human condition was passed on. And now the campfire is a giant celluloid, or a giant screen with a celluloid print on it.
Totally.
More and more digital these days. But sitting together in that theater, watching somebody tell us a story, and so I really appreciate that you were able to tell Walter's stories and bring that to us. Let's talk about a little bit of your process throughout this film. It was very highly stylized in a lot of ways. What went into developing how you were going to shoot this, the color palette, things like that?
Yeah, so great question. Thank you. A lot went into the thought process of this and sort of what the visual world of Walter was going to look like. For me, the film takes place, for the most part, it's in his watch shop in 1995, and it's in the barracks in 1939 and 1945. But there's a moment of flashback to when Walter is 14, before he's taken. Life is free. He's a teenage boy in the countryside of Poland. And so for me, there were these sort of three distinct pieces of his life that we were showing. And so for 1939, when he's a kid and he's free, like the colors were saturated and the world was big, and we're out in the open and we're seeing the countryside, and that was important to sort of lean into, just like the piece of that. Then immediately going into the barracks, the world compresses.
I was just going to say, it becomes very claustrophobic. Everything tightens in, and I really did get a sense that that was obviously very deliberate, but it helps put us in his shoes, right? I imagine that his time in that camp was exactly that. In that barrack, in that building, day in, day out, no outside. The Liberation Day part that comes, you're like, that was such a beautiful piece where just the doors open and the bright light coming in from outside. You hear a little bit of sounds, but he has been living in this hole for 5 years. So
this dark room where there's pools of light dropping in, and his whole world of survival it all hinges on these watches.
Yeah.
And so his world is focused on these watches and on the tiny, the 500 pieces to a pocket watch, and like how that's it. Like if he shifts his focus out of that, he might not survive another day.
Right.
And so for me, it was compress that world. And then even when we're in 1995 with Walter and in his watch shop, it's still a compressed world.
Yeah, there's a level of PTSD throughput there where, yeah, right, he's stuck behind that desk, and his whole shop is even a little bit claustrophobic. It's nothing but watches. You never see him go outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even like when the customer comes in, he opens the door, but he never steps out.
Right.
And this is, I mean, look, this is at the end of the day, this is his safe space. Like everything that he surrounded himself with, all these, antique clocks and watches and the ticking of it all. Like this is sort of the warm blanket that he needs to just feel safe and feel comfortable in his life. But he's made a living using the skill set that he learned under duress in these camps to make a life for himself. And so like the thought process that I had a constant thought of like, what would this be like to daily use the skill set that you were taught to survive in the camps.
What kind of like stress does that put you under every, you are reliving or revisiting some of your own trauma every day in order to survive, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then beyond that, survive in the new world, come from Poland knowing nothing to Philadelphia, where you have to make a life for yourself. But, he went to Germany before he moved to Philly and got his, master watchmaking certificate in Germany, where his oppressors were. Like immediately after the war. So it's like the mentality of that, where it's like, I'm gonna overcome this, and I'm gonna use this as fuel, and say, look, like I'm not gonna shy away from, the practicality of this, and if the best place to learn this is in the heart of the beast, that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And he did that, and he thrived there, and he moved to the US and he thrived there. And so, like to sort of like bring it back a little bit, like it's still like, even in the film, like it's this PTSD moment, meeting this customer that brings him back. But each section of his life, like in the shop again, it was warmly saturated, but not saturated like the bright, happy colors of the flashback.
Right.
And the barracks were the sort of, we leaned into a sepia just to like
say there's almost
sort
a
of
sinister
desaturate.
Yellow to it.
Like, exactly. Just to lean into like the focus of the lights, and how that was like, again, like outside of the pools of light is darkness. And that was really what he was dealing with.
So there was a couple of points in the barracks where there was some largely implied violence, but how did you deal with that scene? You've got an adult who has to essentially, I'm sure in the film, in real life, pretend to hurt this child.
No.
How did you go through working with your actors in that scene?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a lot of conversation. From as soon as we cast everybody, I had phone calls with everybody, just explaining everything, making sure that they understood the gravity of each of the scenes that we were going to be doing. We had a table read with everybody, and sort of talked through the beats and talked through what we were planning to do. And then on the day, we had conversations and we had rehearsal, and we discussed all these things with everybody. For me, the most important thing is for people to feel safe, and to feel like, there's nothing at the end of the day, like when we cut the camera, like I still want you to remember that you're acting, and if in the moment, like that's not understood, that's a bad thing, and like, again, because things are so intense in those moments between those two characters, like there had to be rehearsal and just constant dialogue. Are you okay before? Are you okay after? Like we paused. I mean, we circled up every morning and talked about the gravitas of the content, but that we needed to remember that, like, when the camera's cut, like, breathe. Remember to have a good time. Like, we're here to celebrate Walter's life at the end of the day, and this is very, like, intense subject matter. But, like, that can't be the through line of energy. Right. We had to keep this a space of love and a space of respect and a space of caring for each other. So it was constantly, I mean, like there's pictures of me hugging the young actor, like after several takes, like just like, it's really like it's so important again for that respect and that safety of everybody that they feel okay.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Your costuming. This was I joked a little bit with somebody earlier because I think the film took place in the '90s, and we were like, oh, a period piece, right? We both, oh, good Lord. But with yours, it truly was what we would call a period piece. There are very few people left from that era, and you took us back. What was the process of set construction and costuming like? That was a very authentic looking Nazi uniform. The barracks gave us a very authentic look. He had the right period bicycle that he was riding in the beginning. That takes a lot of detail, a lot of effort there.
Yeah, thank you for also noticing all that. The detail was so important to us. From breaking down the script when we got that to making sure that every detail about the costumes was historically accurate, period accurate. Stutthof was the camp, and there isn't a lot of documentation about what the interior of the barracks looked like, about what the specific prisoner outfits were that the inmates wore. So we found as much as we could. We worked with Catherine Charpentier as our costume designer, and she's incredible. And she did a ton of research on this, and gave us a full costume deck breakdown of these are different Nazi uniforms. This is the one that the barracks officer would wear. This is the one that the officer that took Walter would be in, and down to the patches. She was sewing patches onto the Nazi uniform. She was sewing the patch onto Walter's prisoner costume. Her and Hannah Green, our costumes assistant, they were just so involved. And this was a 2 to 3 month process of just back and forth, making sure we were nailing that. 1995 was the same thing with Walter and the customer.
Yeah,
we still had to make sure that what Walter was wearing was Walter appropriate for 1995.
Right.
Which was, again, they nailed that. And then for set design, Shannon Ballas was our production designer, and she's based out of Reno, and her and her husband Brian Evans, who was our DP, they came down to LA to do the shoot, and she shows up with the barrack lighting that she had built from IKEA things and had made it look weathered and period or whatever. It was just again, we had so many conversations about just making sure that the barracks looked authentic and minimal. But every piece that you see was well thought out, well conceived by her. And Lindsay Cantrell was our set decorator, and she was incredible too. We just months of back and forth and prep on all these things that made it look authentic. And the watch shop,
was that a real watch shop?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to say, because that would have been a heck of an endeavor to create that watch shop from whole cloth. But as far as I understand it from the credit scenes, Walter's actual watch shop is now in a museum.
Yeah, so his workbench and his work
workbench.
tools are in the Hoffman Clock Museum, and we've actually screened at that museum as well.
So I was going to say, did you actually go to the museum to check things out ahead of time?
I wasn't able to, but I saw pictures of the place, and so we got to sort of try to do as much recreation of what his workbench might have looked like.
Gotcha.
But we just lucked out with this watch shop. It's a father-son multi-generational clock and watch repair shop.
Yeah.
So all the tools that they had were tools that Walter would have had 30 years ago.
Gotcha.
And so it just when you see the piles of watches in the camps, when you see all of these watches, 90% of them were given to us to use by this clock shop. It's Eric's Clocks and Watches in Pasadena. We love them. They're amazing. David and Eric are just incredible, and they gave us their time to do a watch repair tutorial with Steven.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so and William, two of our Walters, and so just they were so involved. But the place, it's an antique shop, and we basically had to remove items.
Yeah.
That was it was decorated. So we had to remove items so that we wouldn't break the place.
Right.
Yeah.
How was that? So that's going to be a big, it's a functioning watch shop. So how did you, were you displacing them? Was it shooting at night? What was the...
We shot on a Sunday.
Okay.
And I want to say that they weren't open that day. I think they weren't open that Sunday, or they closed for us. Either way, like, yeah, it was just our space for the day. I mean, we could.
So you did that in one day then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we could fit like 8 people in the space without panicking. So yeah, it was awesome. But like, yeah, it was a full on character. Like that. I mean, we got very lucky finding that place.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So thank you again for telling that story. I think it's important to, I mentioned earlier, I think it's important to remember these things, especially as you know, I mentioned earlier, we have very few people left from that generation, and it is easy to lose sight of the past and lose sight of history if we don't continue to tell those stories. So yeah, and that was, you know, it's very popular to tell a fighting scene or a shooting scene or, you know, an invasion scene, but to tell the story of somebody who was simply a prisoner who was freed it takes a lot more to, I think, make that to give us empathy. And I think it takes a lot of effort for what you did. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit more about your career in general. So you have done, I believe it was 32 maybe plus short films so far.
Yeah.
Why are you so committed to short filmmaking?
Because I don't have to wait for permission.
Okay. That's a great answer.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where, so my best friend and writing partner, Alan Rickert, he and I were both actors when we moved to LA. He's still an actor. He's great. And he's had some really, really great successes throughout the years acting. For me, when we were both auditioning and, you know, trying to get our career started. And, you know, at a certain point, I just got tired of auditioning and not acting.
Yeah.
And so we started talking and we ended up writing, we were like, let's just write something for ourselves. So we co-wrote an action comedy feature film.
Sure.
And we were like, that was awesome. Don't know what to do with that now. Okay, let's write a short film.
Sure.
Let's see what that looks like. So we co-wrote this short film called Harry S. Truman, Samurai Detective. Throw it all against the wall, you know, and it was a black and white film noir action comedy. And we thought it was just hilarious. And so we were like, cool, I guess let's shoot this. And like the empowerment that we gave each other to just be able to say, let's go shoot this.
Yeah.
And we weren't in it. We had like tiny little cameos, but like for both of us, it was like, let's learn this process really quickly. Let's see how this works so that we'll do another one and then we'll be in it.
Yeah.
And I mean, our first day of shooting, you know, 16 hours on set, like, you know, and
welcome to indie films.
Oh man, I know. And everyone loved being there for 16 hours. But you know, it's like, and it's familial. It's like in that situation, it was friends that like we just knew were great at what they did.
Yeah.
And we're like, just teach us, like, you know, the DP, Derek Bauer, teach us, you know, like, and it was just like, cool. Like this is a part of sort of like a film school in a way.
Yeah.
But we did that, and 16 hours later, we locked the location doors, and I was like so high on adrenaline. And he and I got, you know, went and got drinks afterwards, and it was like, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And again, it was you have an idea, you have some friends that are really good at what they do.
Yeah.
Make a short film. Great. So we did that, and then, you know, a year later, we did our second one, and we both starred in that one, and that was great. And then a year later, we did another one. And it just sort of got to this point where it was like, yeah, we want to do a feature, but like, this is awesome. Like, we have ideas. We're passionate about filmmaking now. We know how to do it. We're learning how to do it. And all we need is a little bit of money. But like, you know, the passion, you know, sort of, I think, like brings forth the people that circle around you to say, cool, like, you know, you want to do a thing over a weekend? Yeah, we'll come out for 2 days and do it.
Yeah.
And it was that empowerment of just like, I can do it. And I love filmmaking. And, you know, I have several features that are in development, but short films keep happening because we can make them happen.
Awesome.
And then we get to go to film festivals, and we get to, you know, meet like-minded people and meet amazing, you know, collaborators in the future, and get to just be inspired. Like, and so like this whole short filmmaking process has just been like, it's been self-serving in so many ways, because I'm so like, I talk to my wife and I'm just like, I get so buzzed Yeah. Going to film festivals and being able to be in this
There's an energy, right?
Yeah.
There's just such a positive flowing energy when you come to something like this as a filmmaker. I remember being to a couple before I ever really felt like I belonged in the industry, and just being like, and over time, especially after having had a couple that have gone out there and done, either been to some festivals or they've gone on to, we sold a feature for, way less money than we spent on it, but you got out there, and you start to suddenly feel like I do belong here, and you realize, well, you belong here the whole time, and so do all the other people here. They've all gone through the same process. They've all felt like, where do I go find my people? And then it is this is where your people are, right?
Yeah.
So I come away from these feeling so energized and so ready to go tackle the next project, and I just like, somebody come to me with a film.
Yeah. What's next? Yeah, and that's part of it's a double-edged sword, right? Because it's like the what's next of it, like it sort of pushes the features, because you're like, I just want to go make a thing.
Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. And it's like, if you want to go make a thing that's 90 minutes, that's
a process.
Yeah.
6 months to a year before you get started on it. It's
you got to find your budget. You got all that stuff. It's which is like, it makes it challenging.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like at a certain point you have to shift into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people out there don't know. I have friends, relatives, things like that, don't understand quite what goes into a film. And every now and then I'll have somebody on set or bring somebody to something like this, and they'll talk to filmmakers, and they tend to walk away with a better appreciation for our craft. And wow, there's a big difference between somebody painting in their garage and somebody who makes a film. There are so many more people involved. There's so much more collaboration that has to go into it. There's so many more elements, as we talked about your costume design and your set design and props and prepping your actors, going through the process with them so that people felt included and felt safe. And your process as a director, teasing out the performance, teasing out everything, talking with the DP, the lighting guy. There are so many elements that go into this. And I think when you see the short film, you're like, how long? That couldn't have taken very long. Or somebody like, you say, oh, we did one day on set. It was 16 hours, but one day. And you're like, yeah, but it wasn't, we didn't plan it the day before.
Right. This is months of preparation for a marathon 3 days. Yeah. Or whatever it is. But that's part of the excitement of it all. Like, it's a miracle that a short film happens.
I agree. So let's talk about your future. What's coming up next? I heard some features on the horizon.
Yeah, that's the hope. We're developing Watching Walter into a feature.
Okay.
So that script has been written, and we're talking to some folks in Poland about helping us out with that.
Okay.
And
so you're going to possibly go shoot in Poland?
The ideal would be like about 70% of it would be shot in Poland.
Wow. Very cool.
And then the rest would, be in Philly or some U.S. city that looks like Philly.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. I mean, we really want to lean into as much authenticity and exterior as possible.
Okay. Yeah.
Knowing that if green screen has to happen, it's fine. So we have that. I just shot another proof of concept in May with Alan also called 3 to Die. That's a horror comedy.
3 to Die. Okay, well, I won't make you spill the beans on it. I'm looking forward to. Is that something you think you'll have ready for this festival next year?
I mean, it just made its world premiere like 3 weeks ago. Okay, shot it in May. It was a 7-week post.
Okay, so it did premiere then. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. But I would love to bring it to San Jose. I mean, I'd love to bring anything to San Jose.
Awesome.
This festival is incredible. But yeah, we're developing that into a feature right now as well. We have the feature script that's won a bunch of awards. So this was a proof of concept just to sort of add to our deck.
Yeah.
We also have a video game that we created for it. So it's really rad.
I feel like I saw Netflix do that for some Black Mirror episode or something.
Oh, a Bandersnatch or whatever. Yeah.
No. The one with the little characters. Oh, it was very recent.
I gotta look it up.
It's called. Oh shoot! You know what? I have it on my phone.
Nice.
I don't think I deleted it yet. Let me double check. It is called. Nope, I deleted it already.
You beat it, you were
was,
done.
It was one of those one and done things.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a recent Black Mirror episode had a guy who invented these little. It was like a kind of a tongue in cheek because it was like AI in like the 80s, and you're like, there's no AI, not this kind. But they were these little like yongles or something like that on screen, and so they turned it into a little video game you could play, and it was 5 levels or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. So you guys are doing the same thing?
Our game is 5 levels.
Oh, wow.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I had no idea about any of that stuff. But yeah, like when we were doing the short film, we were also working with a video game developer at the same time to say, all right, when we premiere at whatever festival, we want to also premiere the game. So it's online. It's a free game people can play. It's called Unholy Trinity. Yeah.
Unholy Trinity. What a great way to advertise
Yeah.
as well. Very cool. Get people addicted to your game, then they'll want to go see the movie, and then they'll want to get another episode of the game afterwards. And you can just kind of have this whole cycle.
Yeah. And then hopefully someone's like, oh, this should be a feature,
Yeah.
which that's the thing. And then there's a spin-off, show that's associated with it too. So we're like, we've built a world. So we're excited about that one. I mean, there's like a bunch of other things. There's a film called Breathe. That was a short film that I directed several years ago. And now I co-wrote the feature with Mark Asnavorian. Okay. And so that was just a finalist at another film festival. And so we're trying to, pitch that film to get shot somewhere. It's like a Twilight Zone kind of vibe. Yep. All This Wind Shakes No Corn is like a coming of age story about 2 guys in their 60s who form an unlikely friendship. It's like a Nebraska kind of vibe. I mean, there's...
Did I hear you mention something about a mockumentary?
Children of the Cornfield. Yep. That's another one that I'm developing right now for Crystal Hughes, who's an incredible filmmaker, actress, director. She came to me like 6 weeks ago with an idea and looking for a writer, and I was like, I'll take a crack at it. So I wrote 15 pages in like 2 days, and she went to Danville, Ohio, Illinois.
Okay.
And shot it 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So she's editing that right now, and then we're going to co-direct that feature in December as soon as I write it.
As soon as you write it.
Yep.
Well, I hope you do, and I hope I get to see some of your shorts at this next festival. We're going to wrap it up here at this point. Yeah. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to our festival, about the festival, to our audience, about filmmaking, any of that?
Man, I mean, about the festival, like this is an absolute delight. I mean, I've seen probably about 10 blocks of film in the days that I've been here, and every single film is so well curated, such high quality, and the flow of every block is incredible, and it's a testament to Bill and Sinoy and you and all of the programmers and screeners. Like, this is some of the highest quality filmmaking that I've seen in one place in a very long time, and I go to a lot of film festivals, so I'm grateful to be part of this community and to be part of these blocks of films. I mean, to have Watching Walter screen with the company that we did was unbelievable. I mean, like, proud to be here and to be part of it all. Awesome. So yeah, grateful. And to any aspiring young filmmakers, I say, gather your people and just go do it. Don't wait.
Wise words. Well, Mitch, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. I look forward to more of your work in the future. And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time. This has been another episode of the Shortcut Podcast. If you're listening early enough, you can find Mitch's film, Watching Walter, playing on the festival circuit. And if it's been a while since you tuned in, you may instead be looking for his next short film, which I'm sure is just around the corner. I'd like to thank Bill Hargreaves and Sinoy Hinojosa, the founders of San Jose International Short Film Festival, for providing us with the opportunity to bring you these episodes. And I'd like to thank you, the audience, for tuning in. My name is Christopher Lee Denise. You can find me on Instagram and other social media as @LocalCinematic, on YouTube as The Local Cinematic, and in real life, wherever great films are being screened. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.